Peter Coffin was or he still is like a bread tuber type person, but holy shit, have they gone off the deep end very recently. They have gone very, very far in the sort of like authoritarian leftist direction, very, very far on the accelerationist bit of stuff, which basically includes with it a complete sort of dismissal of any forms of like material reformist progress that can be made before now and the end of capitalism, I guess, according to them. And most recently, they had another little, screed, I suppose, on Twitter, which, oh boy, not great stuff. So, we have some very cool stuff. So, like a quote from Lenin here next to Peter just being, "Do not vote." Going to again assert that voting is bullshit. Voting for DeSantis is not a good position. Elaboration on do not vote. Voting isn't inherently useless. However, I posit that it is useless in the current conditions of elections in the United States of America. If you want to put up socialists as communist candidates, fine. Right now, I see that leading to more Lee Carters. It is possible to disagree with Marx and Engels. They saw US republicanism as a possible path to socialism, and that did not pan out, unfortunately. However, I don't think I fundamentally do. I simply do not view today's condition as worthwhile to participate in. That doesn't mean I am against the concept of voting. However, I am against it in the United States as though it can provide no. However, I am against it in the United States as though it can provide noticeable changes, and IMO the most spectacle in a society that is purely a spectacle. Communism, and then we have some other funny shit here. Do not vote. It is not harm reduction. That stuff is bullshit. Do not vote. So the only standard by which you can say stuff like this is if you believe that the only thing that could be done in politics is bringing about the socialist utopia right away. If that is your only metric for success or sort of like valid political change, then this kind of makes sense because, sorry, right now with the current electoral, opinions of people, assuming we like democracies, which I'm not even too sure about anymore, then that's simply not going to happen. So according to that, yeah, I guess voting isn't beneficial for that. But what this misses is all the crazy shit you can accomplish through voting, which is very, very meaningful and materially assist people's lives. So, for instance, whether we talk about things like amnesty programs for migrants, whether we talk about, for example, the Affordable Care Act that got millions of more Americans insured that otherwise wouldn't have been, whether we're talking about one of the most pressing things that is occurring right now when it comes to the rolling back of abortion protections in Texas, for instance, where literally the fact that we lost the presidential seat meant that we had two extra conservative, Supreme Court members which decided to, not push back against the new Texas laws against abortion. It is completely tone deaf to make any of these statements. And the only way you could ever make these statements is if you're so insulated from all forms of really important change that can be accomplished through voting to the point where you just believe that, oh, if it's not socialism, I don't want it. And this is a terrible policy and just general, like, terrible outlook, like, on the world as a whole, because it harms people. You would see less people be harmed, less people suffering, if you had more people voting within their interests. Generally, more people voting for example, progressive policies in the United States of America. But what Peter Coffin is doing here is he's actively encouraging people not to engage in one of the most important tools that we have in order to affect political change, which is voting. And it's honestly incredibly disappointing how he can say this, especially now when like voting like abortion rights are as restricted as they are right now in, for example, Texas, which occurred because we ended up losing an election back in 2016. And it's just a hyper acceleration, is super toxic, super insulated, super reductive way of just looking at politics as a whole, because you're missing up on so much. And this is like a more sort of like a more common what's it called, trend or idea that you see exhibited, especially following the fact that Bernie lost his election the primary in 2020. A lot of people are just like, well, fuck, I guess we can't no longer do like electoral politics, despite the fact that it can do so much good for like people all around the country. Then further, just to talk more about Peter Coffin's more authoritarian like leanings that he has like leaned into, I guess, recently. communism isn't leftism and never has been. Leftism is inextricably connected to monarchism. Also, today's post-leftism and anti-leftism is just leftism in another aesthetic. The anti-leftists as post-leftists are just the same capitalism apologia. I reject authority. Bullshit every leftist thinks is radical. It's just anti-monarchism remnants trying to apply themselves to capitalist class relations. And then just a message says communism. Boy! What the fuck is this? I have no idea what definitions Peter is using for anything here. I don't know if this is a cry for help, or what this is, but holy fuck. This is just an astounding amount of just like disconnection from even the most basic of political theory you can imagine. Usually, even though it's like an obvious point, I like to explain how this is not true, but I don't know if I need to substantiate to anybody the statement that like to fight against the statement that communism isn't like leftist, because it absolutely is a left-wing ideology. And yeah, I don't know what the fuck this is, but the key thing that we're getting at right now is this terrible sentiment. Do not vote. It is not harm reduction. That stuff is bullshit. Do not vote. I'm not a leftist. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a progressive. I am a communist. My goal is to end class society. Voting will never bring that. Do not vote. I used to think you could end voting to reach people and show them you're not hostile to them. You could use voting to reach people and tell them you're not hostile to them. It is false. Do not vote Democrat. Do not vote Republican. Do not vote. I will endorse exactly 0 political candidates. I will not get a job as a social media manager or RP for any company or party. You will watch the dirtbag left, radlibs, post-left, and all of them continually do this over the next 2 years. Do not vote. This reminds me of that fucking meme with the guy like hiding behind like the thing with like a rifle, and then people are being like, hey, please, like, you know, move on. You have to like accept this. And they're like, no, I will never leave. Like, I don't know what the fuck this is. This is an incredible like cry topic. This would be like saying that like let's say you're like an athlete and just being like or in any like sports team and being like, well, fuck, you know, if I can't win the gold medal, why even train? If I can't like obtain the one like key outcome, the only thing like I apparently I care about, then what's even the point in training? And you miss everything that comes with that. You miss all the potential like personal benefits to having like a better health. You miss the challenge and the progress towards eventually getting to that end goal, but in a more efficient way. You miss potential achievements that you can get like on the way there, if that is like your end goal and the only thing you care about. It's just unimaginably like a silly sentiment here. And once again, just like say this to all the people right now who are having their like their rights to an abortion severely restricted with harsh penalties for not abiding by the new laws. To all the people that wouldn't have had, you know, like sort of medical insurance had it not been for the passing of ACA. To all the people that are able to live in the United States of America today that otherwise would have been deported, sometimes without their family, had you not passed certain amnesty programs for refugees or migrants that arrived to the United States of America. This is just such an incredibly insulated and privileged opinion to have that just tunnel visions and misses basically everything that political advocacy should be about. And I said this long ago, and it's been a while since I said this, but you shouldn't want good outcomes just because you're a progressive. You should be a progressive because you want good outcomes. It is the outcomes at the end of the day that is the desired like sort of thing you want to get at. It is not the sort of like production or the manifestation of a political ideology. At the end of the day, the only reason why you should want a particular political ideology to be put into place is because you believe can meaningfully improve people's lives. And when you're just doing this, you're just dismissing so much that can improve people's lives and just putting it in favor of like, oh, well, it's not this hyper-specific niche ideological thing I want to accomplish, therefore it doesn't matter, is precisely putting ideology ahead of actual material change and measurably like improving people's lives, which is a very, very silly sentiment. So yeah, Peter Coffin has gone off the deep end here, not for the first time, so to say, but yeah, there's the do not vote stuff, and then just communism isn't leftist and never has been, which is quite the take there. But yeah, that's it's disappointing. It's disappointing.